in its 10th year. This is the Doc Talk podcast. If you are watching or listening on YouTube, please take a second, hit that subscribe button because you won't be disappointed. One, you're going to help us grow, and you're going to get our content right when it comes out. Right when it comes out. As soon as we hit the publish, you're going to have that content. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever you choose to listen to your podcast, make sure to give us a follow and give us a rating. And if you have a little bit of time, write a nice review for us. Dr. Rob Zatechka, what a weekend. And we got to start talking about the storms because everybody who was affected by the tornadoes that ripped through the western half of Omaha, Bennington, Blair, and over in Iowa and Minden, Iowa, our hearts and prayers and thoughts are with you because it was devastating, absolutely devastating.
It was, which, when I talked to you, your hometown got just absolutely demolished.
Yeah, so I'm from Minden, Iowa. And if you have watched the news, Minden was probably on the Iowa side the hardest hit. The entire eastern half of the town of 399 people is gone. Today, a person died. We're recording this on Sunday. There was a death recorded. He was in the basement, and the house collapsed on him. So I believe that's the only fatality. But, you're talking about a town of 399 people. You wipe out a good portion of that town, and I don't know how it rebuilds. They'll rebuild it in Elkhorn. They'll rebuild in Bennington. You're talking about a town that's 35, 40 miles away, and a quarter of the town and probably a quarter of its businesses were just wiped from the map.
And that's absolutely brutal, which, I was trading some messages. One of our really good listeners, Mark Weber, Mark's a Kearney, Nebraska guy, lives in Dawson, Minnesota now. His son played with my son up at Augustana. Eli's just a great kid, really great football player. Mark was trying to follow what was happening with these storms, and he had a great line, which sadly was a description of what happened. He said, watching the storm in Iowa, he said it was basically the storm was doing a connect the dots from town to town through western Iowa, and that's what happened. I mean, it was just a lot of Minden got probably hit the hardest.
They had an EF5 that was 2 miles wide, and they believe the winds, I heard, up to 250 miles per hour.
The storm, the tornadoes this one generated, every place that got hit, they were saying it was record winds.
Well, you saw them start down in Lincoln, and you saw a lot of people showing them when it crossed I-80. Then it made its way up to Elkhorn and Bennington and went up to Blair. And the destruction is just, it's devastating. Mother Nature's a bitch. I mean, Mother Nature is a bitch. And when she gets pissed off, she lets everybody know. I mean, it's sad because lives are affected. People's homes are affected. And I lived through a tornado in 1976. And this was in Minden. Minden got hit in 1976. And I'll never forget that day. We didn't have any damage to our house. We're lucky. The house right across the street was severely damaged. It's weird what tornadoes do, too, right? You can have a tornado uproot a house, take it off its foundation, and right next door, nothing happens. It's really weird.
It's amazing how localized it can be. And and the thing is, there's very little warning. I mean, when you think about this, you don't have a lot of time to prepare. I mean, you think about, like hurricanes, for instance. A week out that's coming.
Because my daughter Mary's here, right? I don't know if you know that. Mary's upstairs, but she lives in New Orleans. And she was like, we were talking about the difference. I said, Mary, and she's been through 2 really big hurricanes in New Orleans. I said, you had a fucking week to get out of town. I mean, you knew it was coming. Everybody on Friday had no idea that it was coming.
Well, and I mean...
Well, you have an idea, but you don't know where it's going to hit.
If you have 5 to 10 minutes with a tornado, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's good warning time, is if you've got 5 to 10 minutes. But it's amazing I mean, kind of like what you said, how fickle it can be in terms of what areas get hit and what don't. And unfortunately, the tornadoes that hit were big ones that covered wide swaths. I think the one that went through Elkhorn and Bennington, I think they were putting that one at close to a mile wide.
So you may be wondering if there's any way you can help. Of course, there's a lot of shelters that are taking food, dry goods, toothpaste, toothbrushes, because some people lost absolutely everything. Of course, the Red Cross does a lot of good work. Not a lot of great work, just a tremendous great work all around. And that's where you can get to Husker Hounds. They're taking orders right now for the all-together gear. I don't know if you saw this. University of Nebraska launched it right before the spring game. It's all-together gear. Husker Hounds is taking orders now. It's supposed to be in the stores on Tuesday. That'd be the last day of April. So after that, all the proceeds are going to the Red Cross for tornado relief efforts after the devastating storms hit the state. And so if you're looking for any simple way you can contribute, go to Husker Hounds, 2 locations in the Omaha area, purchase one of those all-together T-shirts, and you're going to benefit the Red Cross, who in turn will do a lot of good for the people affected. I mean, it's something simple. If you can donate other things, there's a lot of places to donate, but if you want to do something really simple, and it's unifying, right? I think this is where Iowans, Nebraskans, everybody comes together because, again, my hometown, my mom's with me right now because luckily she's 81 years old. She lives by herself. Luckily, her house wasn't damaged, but they don't have any power. I mean, the town hasn't had power, so she's living with me right now. So, which is good. I'm glad I'm able to do that. But everybody is affected by this. So the all-together gear at Husker Hounds, they're taking online orders now. You can call the store. Should be in stores on Tuesday, and Scotty will make sure that you get a T-shirt or a sweatshirt or anything you're looking for. So, again, our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers going out to everybody who was affected by those tornadoes. All right, Rob, you started something on Twitter over the weekend. You did. You started something on Twitter.
Well, I didn't start it.
Bullshit.
I jumped in and carried it on.
Okay, so you saw Chris Hassel, who works for CBSSports.com.
Isn't he originally an Iowa kid?
He's a huge Hawkeye fan.
Yeah, he's an Iowa kid.
Huge Hawkeye fan.
Like, I started following him years ago before he ever went national.
Chris is funnier than all get out.
He's like Iowa's Kevin Kugler.
Yeah, yes and no. Hassel's just a really different cat, but he's got a funny sense of humor.
The stuff he does online is hilarious.
But the thing was Power Beer rankings. And this was Rob's top 5 power beer rankings. 1, shower beer. 2, beach beer. 3, garage beer. 4, beer in my basement. And 5, airport beer. I got to be honest with you. I was a little disappointed I was 4th. Because I think I'm ahead of the garage beer. I really do. I get the beach beer, and I don't know what the fuck a shower beer is. Owen, have you ever heard of a shower beer? Owen, have you ever taken a beer out? Hold on. Owen, have you ever taken a beer out and had a beer in a shower?
Yep.
You have?
Absolutely.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Fucking game changer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've never had a shower beer.
Okay. Do you know what it does? It turns your shower into have you ever gone to a ski resort? You're sitting in the hot tub. You've got a drink. It's the poor man's poverty version of that. You're sitting in the shower. It's like your own little personal sauna. You're having a drink.
Are you happy? Are you a happy guy? Because you have the shower coffee. Because you told us about that last week, and now you have a shower beer.
Oh, do you know what I need to do? I need to do the coffee power rankings now. I'm going to start that shit.
I'm like,
that's coming out later tonight.
Some people agreed with you in the shower. Some people like me, I've never done that.
The people who were all for it were like, it'll change your life.
Okay, I get the beach beer. I totally get that.
And when I say beach beer, I know some people are like, well, how about a lake beer? I'm like, no, totally. When I say beach beer, that's your outdoor beer, lake beer, fishing beer, campfire beer. That's your outdoor beer.
Okay, I can go with that. But
I mean,
but my basement number 4.
So I mean,
you have consumed a considerable amount of beer in this basement.
Okay, so I made a comment. I was talking to a patient once in the hospital, and they were working with one of our surgeons. And I would say this, that we've got such an amazing group of surgeons to work with. And I made this little quip to the patient about their surgeon might be like the 7th nicest human being on the planet. And the patient looked at me and they're like, they're only 7th? Like, who are the 6 people in front of them? And I told the patient, I was like, listen, there's 8 billion people on the planet. If you're number 7,
you're doing pretty good.
That's like 1/1,000,000th of 1%. So when you're like number 4 on the power beer rankings, I mean, that's like you just made it to the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. I mean, as an Iowa guy, that's fucking hang a banner material right there, dude.
Okay. I know. I thought I would have been ahead of the garage. The garage beer is low hanging fruit.
Ooh,
that's low hanging fruit,
dude. Do not lowball the garage beer. Garage beer's up there. Like, I'm just saying that the shower beer's freaking elite. Only a few people are willing to even do that.
But see, you have one of these fancy showers now that have like dual shower heads, and you have like a bench in your shower.
So
my shower is in a fucking tub.
So we redid the shower.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry.
Did you design it specifically for drinking coffee and beer?
We redid the bathroom.
Okay.
And it's kind of one of those, like when some people are like, okay, we're going to redo a kitchen, or we're going to redo a basement. And it's like, oh, we're going to redo the basement. We're going to build it around the screen, around the viewing experience. Or they redo a kitchen and they're like, we're going to redo this kitchen completely around the stove setup. We're going to have the indoor grill, the indoor griddle, and the stove. Like you redo it around. We redid the bathroom around the shower. Like there's no tub. Like the shower, the shower is the centerpiece of this.
See, my wife in our master bedroom, she won't let me take a shower up there. She's like, this is my bathroom. You have your man bathroom downstairs, which you know is just a disgusting man bathroom. I actually cleaned it today. I mopped it.
Maybe you should bring a beer into that.
Maybe I should, but I'm standing in a tub. I don't know.
Perfect. If you spill it, no probs.
Jesus. I don't know.
I'm just saying it's one of those. Have you ever lingered a little too long in the shower? You're sitting there, you're like, it's nice, it's warm, it's steamy, the water's massaging your back a bit. You're like, I'm just going to hang here for a little bit. Imagine that.
Yeah, I'm probably not drinking a beer. I'm doing other things at that point.
With a beer. Imagine that with a beer.
Left hand holding the beer or the right hand?
Soap in your armpits. I get it. I totally get it.
Speaking of beer, well, you're having your 4th best power beer ranking experience right now as we are drinking beer. Regular listener of the show, and we've had a lot of beer dropped off the last couple of weeks, and it was hard to prioritize, but I felt because these beers are massive, and I mean massive. Matt Pinkerton dropped some beer off at the drop-off location the other day. He brought some Pals Brewing Company, which I believe is from North Platte, and Peg Leg from North Platte. These are monster beers.
These are not small. I mean, I've had crowlers. These are big-ass freaking crowlers.
These are massive. Wait, what did we start off with? We started with...
So we did the Pals.
This is the Big Knob IPA.
So this is... I've had this before. My understanding, this is kind of like Pal's flagship IPA, which I've had it before. I know it's you can get it at a number of places in Omaha. Usually when I get Pal's, it's at Casual Pint there at Countryside Village. Is usually
I bet they don't sell these monsters there.
No, that you do not get.
And I don't know if you can get in. Look at the size of these things. This is Peg Leg.
It is, and they do not mess around with the freaking variety.
No.
Holy cow. We got every flavor on the planet here today.
We got explosive raspberry, English brown porter. What's that one right there?
The Javanilla.
We got
okay. That's gonna be like a vanilla coffee.
Okay,
that's gonna be good.
We got sweet cherry
that's
pie.
That's a breakfast beer. She's my
cherry pie.
Yeah.
IPA from
Was that
Peg Leg.
Warrant? Not Warrant.
Yeah, I think it was.
Was that Warrant?
She's my cherry pie.
Yeah, I got the song.
An oatmeal stout and a key lime pie.
Okay, so there's a couple breakfast beers in here. We got to do a morning recording at some point.
We were trying to today, but you blew us off.
Sorry, I was cleaning up shingles around North Bend.
And so, did the second home get hurt that bad or not?
The cabin.
Yeah, the cabin. Yeah, you go ahead and call that a cabin. It's a fucking house.
We lost some shingles. Nothing insane, but it had some cleanup we had to do.
If you need some shingles, I know a guy by the name of John Higgins Weather Guard who might be able to.
Guess who does all our roofing?
John Higgins, and
our siding,
and he's not even paying
our
for this.
Gutters,
and he's not even paying for that.
He's not, but he has been on the podcast before.
Yes, he has. And John just got a new job. He's going to be running the Big 12 officiating crew in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Not on the court anymore.
No, he went on the court this last year. He ran the Pac-12, the Mountain West, and the Big West, and a couple of those.
Okay.
West. Now he's moved to the Big 12. Maybe we'll get John back on.
That might have been, if you guys get a chance, go back and listen to that podcast, because the probably the most interesting aspect of that one to me was the off the court grief he would take, where people would track him down to voice their disgruntlement.
Kentucky fans are the worst. Kentucky fans are the worst.
Dude, Kentucky. How about the Omaha KU crowd?
Yeah.
Oh my God, the stories were amazing. By the way, big thanks to Matt. So Matt's actually he supplied us with beer. I got to kind of plug his
insurance agency.
Well, financial advisor. But
I thought he was an insurance guy, but
no, he does the 401ks for like half the breweries in Nebraska. No, but he's got some ties with Heavy Brewing out in Gretna, who does some outstanding
Matt,
beer.
I have an event coming up later in May. I may need your help with that, because it's so.
If you haven't been there, the pizzas are outstanding.
Okay.
The beer's amazing.
Okay.
Give it a shot, and I'm not going to do it on the pod right now, but talk to somebody there and ask them how they got the name Heavy Brewing, because there's a story behind the name, and it's a great story. So head out to Heavy in Gretna, give it a try. Go with the hot honey pizza. It's great. And drink a few beers, do a sample flight, good spot.
Oh, and I'm going to put you on the spot. I apologize for this. And if you get mad at me, I totally understand. Pals and Peg Leg are in North Platte. You're going to be in North Platte in June, correct?
Yeah, I'll be in North Platte in June, I think 13th and 14th, yeah.
That's are you okay talking about this or not?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
He's going to be opening the first weekend of the rodeo at NebraskaLand Days.
Nice.
Yeah. So
we've talked about this on the podcast before.
No, we haven't. You said not yet. Remember, I said, "Hey, can we tease it?" And you were like, "No, not yet." So now we're teasing it. But when the band's out there, you're gonna have to go to Pals and Peg Leg.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like North Platte. Always been a big North Platte guy. You're pausing.
No,
you're not supposed to do that.
No, I'm doing this in a good way, because it's one of these. You get outside Lincoln and Omaha, and everybody thinks there's nothing out there. There's some really great spots: Grand Island, Kearney, North Platte.
I'm a Crawford guy, man. You put me up in the middle of nowhere in the Sandhills, and
dude, you love Fort Robinson.
I would, if I could find an affordable piece of property by Crawford, Nebraska. I would.
Good luck.
I would. I know. I would buy it, but I would love to live in the middle of nowhere. Just absolutely in the middle of nowhere.
See, I'm right there with you. The problem is, I'm not sure our wives would.
No, I know my wife wouldn't. She loves going to Fort Rob. Yeah. She likes Crawford. She likes Shadron. I'm trying to talk my daughter Greta into going to Shadron. She's like, "What am I going to do in Shadron?" I don't know. It gives me a reason to go to Shadron. Gives me a reason to go up to up to.
I try to convince Piper to go there to wrestle, but
it's not working, is it?
Not so much.
Yeah.
Although one of her high school teammates is going to go wrestle there, so that's pretty cool.
So we're now about 19 minutes and 30 seconds into this podcast, and people are going.
And all we've covered is beer.
Beer and tornadoes.
By the way, we need to do a second beer here. So do you want the cherry pie?
Yeah, cherry pie.
Well,
I need to go something sweet.
We've got cherry pie.
Or key lime.
Or, key lime. Which one?
Cherry pie.
Okay.
Cherry.
Well, there was a raspberry somewhere in there.
That's on the Pals.
That's back on the Pals. All right, we got to give Peg Leg a little love here, so we'll do that.
So we're going to open the Peg Leg. We've had a Pals. By the way, you can get Pals at if you're in Omaha at
Countryside Village. Go to Casual Pint.
Can you get Peg Leg there too?
I'm sure it's possible. I have not seen Peg Leg there, but that does not mean they don't carry it and or have not carried it yet. I just haven't had it there yet.
So we get a lot of complaints on the YouTube comments of people bitching about, it's 20 minutes in, you haven't talked any football yet. Well, we do other things here. You should see the complaints we get on YouTube. They're kind of funny.
Which we get complaints when we don't talk about the beer enough.
I know. So
by the way, what did you think of the IPA?
I liked it. It's a little bitter for me, but one of them's good. I could do that by the way, that's a big IPA. And I'm talking about that's an 8.2. Yeah.
That's pretty we don't have the listing on the ABV on the label here.
I bet it's
not ABV. I'm sorry, the the IBUs.
I bet it's above 70.
The IBU's got to be pretty heavy on that as well. But yeah, ABV is heavy. IBUs are going to be heavy on that one too. That is not it's not the most citrusy IPA. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, it's not a summer version of the IPA.
It's not. It's good. I really, really, really like it.
God, this can makes me feel small.
That's like a normal size can for me.
I get that, but it makes me feel
like I drink
small.
a regular can of beer and I'm like Andre the Giant with like the little tiny Budweiser cans.
Okay, I'll save the rest for you. That's a nice color to that.
Yeah, it is.
It's really kind of an
so
amber
this
color.
is the cherry pie, correct?
Yes, this is cherry pie.
All right. Well, this will be interesting.
So the spring game, I don't take a lot of stock in spring games. What I wanted to see out of spring games is just kind of the development and what happens. And of course, a lot of eyes were on Dylan Raiola. And I got to be honest with you, Ross. I'm thinking of my morning show.
You know what? If you want to compare me to Ross at all,
it's not bad.
I know Ross.
Rob.
That's a good dude.
I was impressed with Dylan Raiola. I really, really was.
He looked good. I mean, so when I watched his high school tape, the thing that I always see recruits and I always think, okay, everybody is overhyped. The thing that really always impressed me about Raiola is when I went back at the end of his senior season and I looked at his statistics over 4 years. Now, here's one of the interesting things to me is the fact that over 4 years, he played at 4 different high schools. What'd you think of the beer?
Falls flat. There's not much cherry pie there.
Let me see.
It's just, it's disappointing. Nothing. I'm sure another one. We got plenty to try, but it's just a little disappointing in my book.
Little sour. I kind of wanted a little cherry slap in the face, and I did not get that.
There's not that cherry tart right.
All right, Pals is winning the Battle of North Platte so far.
Yes.
We should next one. We'll try the key lime next, and we'll go from there.
Okay, back to Dylan.
The thing that was always impressive to me is that you got a kid who over 4 years played at 4 different high schools, 4 different coaches, 4 different groups of receivers, line, etc., other teammates. His last year he played at it was either the largest or second largest class in Georgia. So it was not like he was playing in Class C Nebraska. It was big time high school football his senior year. Every year in high school, he basically averaged 30 touchdowns and 2.5 interceptions. His numbers were very, very, very good, but even more so, they were very consistent. And kind of the thing on him that everybody said, he's not the guy who's going to take off like Jeff Sims. There's an opening, and he's running 40 yards to get the score. That's not him. He'll move around a lot in the pocket. He'll go Brett Favre on you. He'll go sideways all over the place, Patrick Mahomes. But he's not going to take off and run downfield. And that was exactly what we saw. We saw a guy who would move around, wait for the receivers to open up, buy a little bit of time, and get the ball downfield. Little unconventional on the throwing motion. He does not have a conventional throwing motion. I think a lot of people knew that coming in. I think that's what he was known for. So I don't think there was any surprise with that. The guy can put the ball where it's supposed to be, though.
He had that's what impressed me the most was his touch, right? And a lot of freshmen, what you see in that position, are a little rushed. They don't have quite the touch. He had really good touch. For the white team, he was 10 of 16. He had a pick, 121 yards. For the red team, he was 6 of 6, 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Here's Matt Rhule talking about Dylan Raiola after the game.
It's going to be the little things with Dylan, not the big things, right? He's got a great feel for the game. He's got a big-time arm. He's calm. It's going to be the little things. It's going to be protecting the football, taking 3, managing the game. I thought it just felt like he did a lot of those things, but he hasn't done all of them. He's grown as the spring's gone on. So he, like all the rest of our players, I think, had a chance today to just improve on what they did last week, and I thought in a lot of ways he did.
He mentioned the little things. The one thing I noticed, and we went through it on the Doc's Diagnosis presented by Centers Federal Credit Union, he telegraphed a lot. But that's a little thing that I think comes with freshmen. You can grow out of that.
Even well-developed freshmen, that's something that's hard to avoid. And again, we talk about this on the diagnosis. I'm a little bit okay with it, and the reason I say that is because the one thing I did notice with him that I really liked is that his timing was good. And what I mean by that is, the way plays are designed, let's say it's a 3-step drop. When the offensive coordinator is designing these plays in terms of the wide receivers, get off, routes, cuts, breaks, etc., the way all of the rest of the guys, the other 10 guys on offense, the way it's designed, if it's a 3-step drop play, it's supposed to be step, 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 plant, and throw. The ball's supposed to be out just like that. If it's a 5-step drop, it's step, 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 plant, and throw. If it's a 7-step drop, 7 steps, plant, and throw. It's not for instance, if it's a 3-step drop, you're not supposed to drop back 3 steps, plant, look, make a read, shuffle 5 steps to avoid that defensive end that got around the tackle, and then throw. Because by then, now guys are breaking off routes and trying to get open again because it's a broken play now, essentially. The thing that I saw from Raiola, and I saw it consistently throughout the time that he was on the field, it was step, 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 throw. It was 5 steps, plant, and throw. You didn't see that moving around. There was one play where we go over it in the Doc's Diagnosis. It was a touchdown pass. Technically, I kind of not to rain on the parade. It should have been called a sack, but and I say that it was more on the offensive line, not Raiola, but he was taking his drop, planting, and even if he was telegraphing it, if you throw the ball 100% on time, even if you're telegraphing it, the ball's hitting the receiver's hands right about the time that the defensive back should be turning around to look for the ball. So if you're truly throwing it on time, it's a thing of beauty. And the examples I always give, if you want to go back and look at your classic Hall of Fame NFL quarterbacks, and I'm not saying that Dylan Raiola is the next Dan Marino. Dan Marino always threw the ball on time. Troy Aikman always threw the ball on time. They trusted the system that they were in. They trusted their teammates that they would be in position to make the play. The ball was going to be there. And if you're a quarterback who, even if you're telegraphing exactly where you're going to throw the ball, if you're getting it there truly on time, it's really, really hard for a defense to catch up to that.
His one pick that he had wasn't even his fault. It wasn't.
He even said it, and it is kind of true. The ball hit the receiver's hand.
Yes.
It was a little, Raiola himself said it was a little high, it was a little behind.
Good leaders do that.
I get it, and I liked that. Now, the other thing I will say is that if you want to see a lot of interceptions, have a quarterback who throws the ball just a tiny bit high and a tiny bit behind, and you're going to have a quarterback who has a shit ton of interceptions. Raiola recognizes that. It makes it just a little bit harder. Could the receiver have made a play on that ball? 100%. I appreciated the fact Raiola pointed out that, hey, I had the ball a little high. I had the ball a little bit behind. We're going to clean that up.
So, I was a little disappointed in my Hawkeye brethren. For those of you that are new to the podcast, I grew up in Iowa, as we talked about early on.
What?
I grew up an Iowa fan, but I covered Nebraska for almost 20 years. I was a little disappointed because there's some Hawkeye fans making fun, just kind of picking on the situation. I'm like, Nebraska right now in a quarterback situation is in much better shape than Iowa is. I mean, Deacon Hill went into the transfer portal. Jake,
which I texted you about that when I saw it. You're like, yeah, it's probably okay.
Yeah, but Cade McNamara, you don't know if he's going to be healthy. But Nebraska, to me, is sitting in a really good spot. One of the great things about if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we put some polls up every once in a while. We put a poll up this weekend, what quarterback impressed you the most during the spring game? Dylan Raiola running away with the vote. You can still vote on it, getting 80% of the vote. Now, you and I may differ a little bit here. Actually, Heinrich Haarberg impressed me the most because I think he made a lot of strides, in his throwing motion, but also his composure, and just felt more comfortable in the offense. I actually was impressed by Haarberg.
And he's a guy that if you go back to last year and listen to his interviews, Coach Rhule's interviews, they talk about the fact that Haarberg, he was not a guy that was like hanging out, lurking in the quarterback meetings the previous years under Frost. I mean, this is a guy who probably did not get a ton of hands-on instruction in the previous couple of years. And now he spent half of last year as the starting quarterback. This year, he actually has a quarterback coach. I mean, that's something new for all of these guys under Rhule. I agree with you. So
you liked Kalen, though, didn't you?
Okay, so here's the thing. In terms of who's the best, Raiola.
Yes.
And I thought when I look at it, like who's got everything you need, who's got all the tools in the toolbox, it's Raiola. When I look at, okay, well, who's made the big jump? Who's made the strides? Who's impressive in that regard? I totally agree with you on Haarberg. And he's a guy that if you had asked me 1 month ago where I saw Haarberg from what's his role going to be in 2024 for Nebraska, I would have said he's going to be that utility guy on offense. He's going to be what everybody wanted Luke McCaffrey to be. Slot guy, little bit of tight end, maybe the jet sweep guy, could even play sort of that pass catching fullback spot, third down running back. Just the offensive Swiss Army knife. That's the role I first saw for Heinrich Haarberg. Now I'm sitting here going, okay, this guy's the legit second string quarterback.
Absolutely. And
we can't
close to first team.
We can't risk him getting hurt by putting him at other spots now. He's the legit number two. He's got to stay at quarterback. I don't think you're going to see him play much outside of the quarterback role.
I don't disagree with you. He really, really impressed me. Now, Kalen, on the other hand, here's a guy that can play 4 games. I would redshirt his ass. I would redshirt him.
And I would try to do that with Kalen as well. Going back to Haarberg, he's jumped immensely, and I say all of this in the my microphone's drifting here. I say this in terms of this is a compliment for Haarberg. Like, I'm looking at him where before I saw him basically as this is a running pass catching tight end, and now I'm like, nope, this guy's your second string quarterback. That's a big, big jump. that I did not foresee happening. On Kalen, so here's my thing on Kalen. You got a guy who had Power 5 offers coming out of his freshman year in high school. And he was at Bellevue West, which, they churn out D1 guys left and right there. I mean, it's almost ridiculous. His sophomore year, they split him a little bit between him and the other guy. Junior year, full-time starter. Senior year, full-time starter. They played West Side 1 to 2 times a year. My kids went to West Side. So we go and the football stadium's blocks from our house, basically.
Yeah.
So you want to go watch a little high school football on a Friday night and watch a bunch of D1 kids play, go to an Omaha West Side game. It's a great spot. So we go up there quite a bit. I've watched Dan Kalen play in person multiple times. I was never impressed. And I say that he's also playing against a who's who of a epic run of D1 athlete production at Omaha West Side right now. And so okay, I get it. I didn't look at him and see, okay, here's a guy who's a Power 5 quarterback. Does he have an arm? Yeah. Does he have some mobility? Yeah. Does he have some football IQ? Yeah. Is he a Power 5 starter? No. That was my assessment. This was the first time I looked at Dan Kalen and thought, okay, now I see what everybody else saw. The kid's legit. And I was actually really impressed by his pocket presence. This is a big jump up. I mean, you got a guy, he should be graduating high school in a month. He's going through Power 5 spring football instead.
Raiola's in the same boat. The difference between the two, I thought Raiola had a lot more poise, and it just seemed a little bit more under control under center, was able to manage the offense a little bit better. I'm not saying that Kalen's talent isn't there. If I had to look at the difference between the two, he seemed a little more rushed, maybe a little bit more nervous. But you walk in, you got 60,000 people, you're like, holy crap, this is a completely different.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, to look at here, I mean, and this is real, there's a hierarchy at every level in terms of who has what abilities. And you get, I mean, on a Power 5 roster, the third string quarterback is a high school prep All-American. It's just.
Well, not all Power 5. Have you looked at Iowa?
Okay, well, that's true.
And I mean that respectfully, my Hawkeye
it's a converted tight end at Iowa.
Yeah.
Like everybody on Iowa's roster is a converted tight end.
Yeah, but they still win 8, 9, 10 games a year, which is crazy.
Yeah,
but
fuck you. Anyway, no, but I mean, do you know what I'm saying, though?
No, I know what you're saying.
If you're the third string guy on a Power 5 football team, you're a 3-time high school All-Stater and a prep All.
I know exactly.
And that's Dan Kalen. You got a guy who's a 3-time All-Stater and a high school prep All-American. Within the scope of high school prep All-Americans, this was the best Dan Kalen I've ever seen. And I am incredibly encouraged by what I saw from him.
So you're probably wondering, well, who's the starting quarterback? Well, Matt Rhule's not ready to name a starter yet, and I don't blame him. He doesn't have to. All indications would say that it's Dylan Raiola, but here's his approach going into summer and fall camp, and we're talking about head coach Matt Rhule.
We're going to focus on Dylan. I get that. But you can see the improvement in Heinrich. You know, you can see Danny as a true freshman go out there and complete 60% of his balls, whatever he did today. You know, it's just I want the quarterback play to be great, you know, and so each guy from there then has to bring their own unique sensibility, right? You know, Dylan kind of makes these types of plays. Heinrich can make these types of plays. I personally believe it's going to take all of us to play pretty well at the quarterback position in the Big Ten. I personally believe throughout the course of a season, like we have aspirations of regaining Nebraska's place and winning national championships. How many games is that now to win a national championship? And between the Big Ten championship game, if you don't have a bye, it's 15 or 16 games, yes? Play one quarterback through that. So I think, you know, just watching Heinrich blossom and get better, you know, is so important. Watching Danny, watching Dylan, Luke and Jack went out there and they moved the football. Like, I just want the quarterback play to be good, and I think it's a credit to Glenn. He's done a really nice job with them.
He's not wrong in saying that you don't know what's going to happen over the course of a long season.
Look at Florida State.
Yeah.
They had a guy who had, in Jordan Travis, who had a horrific leg injury, knocked them out of national title contention by his injury alone, still got drafted. If you're a great quarterback, that's a game changer. But again, the example is stuff does happen. You got to have more than one guy. My senior year, we needed Brooke. We needed Tommy. We needed both of those guys.
You needed Matt Turman.
We needed Matt Turman. We needed sketch football coach.
Yeah,
the thing that's interesting there, so about when you listen to what Rhule is talking about, go back to last spring. So Nebraska's quarterback situation last spring was you got Jeff Sims, a transfer from Georgia Tech, who came in as everybody was like, well, he's a freak athlete, but he is a career turnover machine. And what was he at Nebraska? Freak athlete, career turnover machine. Number two, we got a guy who's kind of a freak athlete, but he's a guy that a lot of people looked at. I'm talking about Harburg here, that a lot of people looked at and said, like, why is he not a fullback, tight end, or even one of the other things I talked to a lot of hardcore football people who their question was, why is Harburg not playing outside linebacker? That was a question for a lot of the really, really high intelligent football people I know. They wanted to know why Harburg wasn't playing linebacker. That's your second string quarterback. Your third string is Brock Purdy's little brother, who nobody has seen play football before. Like, there was no tape on Purdy. There was,
yeah.
He had that little bit of time at Florida State that generated not a lot, and then he's in Lincoln. And we're like, well, Rhule says he throws a great ball, but shit, we haven't seen anything. So, that's the thing. It's like, so last spring, we got a transfer who's a turnover machine. We got a freak athlete from Kearney Catholic that, like I said, the hardcore pundits are wondering why he's not an outside linebacker. And then we got Chubba from Florida State, who we're all sitting here going like, nobody's ever actually seen this guy play football before. That's our lineup going into last year. Now we've got Dylan Raiola, and we're all sitting here going like, please God, I hope he doesn't get injured. You've got Heinrich Harburg, who everybody's sitting here going like, okay, well, you know what? He started half of last year, was more than serviceable, and now he looks way better than he did last year.
Looks a lot better.
And then at third string, we're sitting here going, okay, we got this Dan Kalin who might be, in terms of overall football IQ tutelage, one of the most educated quarterbacks we've had hit campus in I don't know how long.
I think the thing you come out of spring practice going, if one of these guys goes down, you feel good about it. Let's say the starter goes down. Let's assume it's Raiola. That you feel good about Harburg taking over. You feel good about if Kalin were to step in. You don't worry as much. And
last year it was one of these going into the games with Sims. It was like, I got no clue what the fuck we're going to see. And if he goes down, I got no clue what the hell we're going to see. And if he goes down, I still have no idea what we're going to see. That was last year. Now it's one of those, we've got known entities, and all three known entities are more positive than what we had last year. I hope that's true. I hope it's the good thing that I think it is.
So we're going to spend a lot of time on this podcast, pretty much all the time, talking about the offense. The defense it is what it is. Defense is going to be solid.
Until Tony White gets hired away by somebody.
Yeah,
else.
I mean, the defense is going to be good.
I think they're going to be just fine.
Even though they gave up some yards.
Did you try this one? This is key lime from Peg Leg.
Better than the cherry pie?
Yeah, this one says key lime.
That's what I like. The cherry pie was probably taken out of the.
I had zero cherry. I had zero pie.
Now you
like I'm literally wondering, dude, Matt, did you hook us up with just like Joe Bob's Pilsner on that cherry pie?
Oh, Peg Leg, you've come back strong with the key lime pie.
The key lime is money.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back on Peg Leg's bandwagon.
One of your biggest criticisms over the last several years has been the offensive line. You have a lot of experience on the offensive line. The running game did pretty decent. How would you assess the offensive line during the spring game? And again,
it's hard to tell.
It is hard to tell, but
so spring games I hate. Now here's the thing. So spring games in general, if you're somebody who is actually within the program playing in the spring game, you know how you're going to be. Like 91, 92, going into those seasons, coming out of the spring, that was all right, I think we're going to be pretty good. The potential's there. We'll see what happens. You had a couple of conference titles come out of that. Going into the 93 season, going into the 94 season, those two springs, it was like, damn, we're going to be good. Like we're top 5 in the country. The national title contention is definitely there. Both those years, like playing in the spring game, being right there in the mix, on the spot, you knew you were going to be good. Outside of that, man, it is really, really hard to tell watching a spring game, watching a spring practice, how stuff's going to go. I mean, on the whole, the thing I got last year to this year, watching last year's spring game, I wanted to be a Jeff Sims fan. I wanted him to do well. I wanted to believe that the offense was going to work with him. It looked kind of inconsistent. The throwing wasn't there. The running was there, but I'm sitting here going like I'm one of those guys where I will always go back to, if your leading rusher is your quarterback, you've got a problem.
Don't disagree with you.
And that's what I walked out of last year's spring game thinking, going, okay, the dude can run. He can keep the ball moving downfield if he's running the ball. That's a problem. So that was what I got out of last spring. This spring, I'm more optimistic because, again, going back to just the quarterback situation alone, what I previously said, we've got 3 known quantities, and all 3, I think, there's an upside there. There's a cause for optimism with all 3 of those guys that we talked about.
So,
but the O-line, I mean, the consistency there, I think it's better. You've got guys that now you've got Raiola there. I think so. This is what, year 3 for Donnie Raiola. He's got some guys that I think you're seeing that tutelage, you're seeing that consistency up front. You've got a few more bodies to work with. I'm going to screw up the name, Mescua. The big kid was at Baylor, went to Florida, now in Lincoln. I still think he could be a star on that offensive line. I think they're pushing him hard.
And then you got Ben Hart who's back. You got Corcoran who's back. You've got a lot of starts there.
Yeah, Ben Hart. There's a guy who talk about maligned, and he's a guy that I've been highly, highly critical of in the past.
Yes, you have.
The latter half of last season, and not even latter half, the last third of last year, he solidified up big time and was, I thought, really, really good. And you've got a guy, the athletic ability's there. I mean, for a big, tall guy, his ability to move, his ability to get low, his ability to change position, it's there. He just hasn't necessarily always done it. But it is there, and I think Ben Hart, I'm glad he had that extra year. I'm glad he came back because I think he's going to be a benefit for this line, and that's something I didn't think I'd ever say.
Transitioning into the receiver core, wide receiver is going to be an interesting position for Nebraska.
Lost a tough one with Bell over the week, and I still don't know what those injuries are. They said it was patellar injury.
Yeah, and he was pretty worried about that. Janarian Bonner, 4 catches, 58 yards. Jalen Lloyd, 3 catches, 97 yards.
Had the big touchdown, but that's all Lloyd did last year, too.
But I think, and he only had 3 catches. Thomas Fidoni's a bitch.
Yeah.
He's a bitch, dude.
So I mean, they even talked about how so here's the new thing. You're not supposed to do it. It's like the only quote unquote illegal thing you can do with the transfer portal is go recruit other guys who are not in the transfer portal. You're not supposed to do that.
It's called tampering.
It is, and everybody fucking does it.
Well, while you're bringing it up, here's Matt Rhule talking about Thomas Fidoni, and you'll notice in this quote from Coach Rhule, the little innuendo about everybody in the country is trying to recruit Thomas Fidoni.
What I love about Thomas Fidoni, man, he's never happy. He's never happy, and it's because he wants to be great. He wants to be the best tight end in the world, and he's always trying to get better. But my point was coming off 2 ACLs. To get through a spring, a fall camp, and a season healthy. That's what he needed. Because now instead of rehabbing this winter, he's lifting and he's in the 260 range at 4.5 with 35-inch arms, 34-inch arms. He's a physical freak, and he's loyal. Every team in the country is trying to get him to leave and go there. And the kid's he's Nebraska Cornhusker through and through. So I love that guy, and I love his approach. And it's still good for our players to see a guy who's so obsessed with being great and never happy, you know what I mean? But at the same time, to your point, he just had to have a true off season. He just had to have weightlifting where he's not rehabbing, and now I think you're starting to really see what he can do.
I tell you what, besides Dylan Raiola, Thomas Fidoni impressed me the most on Saturday. I mean, just 3 catches, but he did a lot in those 3 catches.
And he did, and he was a guy, even in the little bit of action, I mean, when they used him last year, I was impressed last year. The natural athletic ability's there, and that's something that you saw in high school where you got this guy who's, like 6'7", 6'8". I mean, he's a huge individual. I'm just heartbroken over the injuries that he's had to go through. I would love to see what he can do injury-free.
Well, I think
this is the first year he's going to have truly coming off of no injury.
Either on Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when we get it edited. But subscribe to the YouTube channel because you'll get the latest diagnosis. We go into Thomas Fidoni. He made a nice cut on one of the first passes he took from Dylan Raiola, had a touchdown catch where he showed his speed. He's a freak of nature, man. And he's massive. And just the little thing that impressed me most about what Coach Rhule said right there about Thomas Fidoni is that he's never satisfied. That's old school 90s, right?
Yeah, he's a workaholic kind of guy. And his whole family's that way. I mean, Lewis Central kid, they're all like that. The thing with him that is really impressive is that when you watch him play, because he is such a huge human being, he is such a big guy, he looks like he's moving so slowly.
But he's not.
And he's absolutely flying. I mean, where he caught the ball over the middle, plants, turns, breaks a tackle, and goes 20 yards right up the middle for a touchdown. The speed with which he covered those 20 yards was scary. I mean, the dude literally covers 4.5 yards per step. They get the ball to him this fall. He stays healthy. Dude's going to do some damage.
I mean, he's an NFL player. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's an NFL player. He's a freak of nature. When he stood up in the post-game press conference, you're like, you're a massive man.
That is such a huge dude. But again, like I said, the thing, it's so deceiving when you watch him. Just because he takes 3 steps and you're like, well, he didn't even move at all. You're like, oh, wait, he went 30 yards in those 3 steps. Holy shit. So that's the thing is that he's a guy that I think could be just a monster weapon. And here's the thing: you look at guys like him. You got Carter Nelson coming in. I mean, there's guys out of that mold now as sort of the prototype for the college and NFL tight ends. It's the 6'6" to 6'8" guys. I mean, I'm absolutely blanking. The kid out of Texas, he's gonna be a freshman this year, but he's quote unquote only like 6'5". Only
6'5".
Only.
Just a quick transition. We're not going to talk about the defense because it was just hard to tell.
Nobody cares about.
Well, no, it's not that nobody cares. Yeah. It's just in the spring game when it's basically two-hand touch because they were in flags. Well, it was hard to get a clear idea of everything what the defense could do, right? Because you're not playing in a true live game situation.
And at the same time, too, you're playing against each other. I mean, if the offense really looks good, the offense is probably okay. But then you're sitting back going, well, shoot, does our defense suck? If the defense lights up the offense and completely shuts them down in a scrimmage or a spring game, are you looking at the team going like, okay, we're not very good? Or maybe the defense is just really, really amazing. So that's the thing. It's hard to judge in these kinds of situations.
I think if you're a Nebraska fan, which if you're listening to this podcast, you are, you're happy that the offense performed the way it did. It put up good yards. So we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that.
And that's usually during the spring.
Yes.
Across the board, scrimmages, practices, spring games, defense usually shines.
So I watched the entire spring game. The first half was fun to watch. Second half, they were just It was
they were just banging.
It was made for television, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were on the Big Ten Network. It was like, okay, we got to play these next 30 minutes. I get it. So we're not going to talk about the defense a lot. But heading into summer workouts, and you get the first 4 games at home, there's a lot of momentum to carry from this spring into summer and into fall.
There is, and I mean, I think the biggest thing is to stay healthy, get a few other guys healthy. You've got a handful of guys on that defensive line that you didn't get great looks at during the spring, and I'm like Ty Robinson. You look at Hutmacher. I mean, Hutmacher's coming off of national qualifier for the wrestling team. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Like, how big is he going to get again? I mean, he got down to 285 for weigh-ins for the better part of the wrestling season. I mean, you got a guy who played at 335 during the season and was quite effective at that. And I think he said his goal is to get back up to 3. They're going to try 315 out and see how that works for this season. So you got some of these guys that you still got some question marks in terms of how they're going to do, but we got to get those guys back up full speed and see how they look on that defensive line for the fall. But the fact that you got guys like Hutmacher coming back, that you've got guys like Ty Robinson coming back, I've got a lot of optimism for the defense coming into the fall.
So I'm going to take this time to say this, and that is, I don't lie to you guys. I want you to
lie to me all.
I don't lie to you at all, but I want to tell you this is the best shoe I've ever worn. I've never been a shoe guy, ever. I've never been. I got to wear a certain kind. From here on out, I'm going to wear G-Defy shoes. These things have changed my life. They really, really have. Revolutionary comfort, highlighted by the Verso Shock technology. The little elevated heel here. Which is clinically proven to relieve knee pain, transforming harmful shock into positive energy to enhance comfort and performance. And Rob, I know you have had a broken ankle, and you've been wearing these every single day.
I am addicted. I've got pair number 2 now.
Do you really?
I got my everyday pair, and I got my work pair.
So Rob is actually wearing these in surgery.
I'm not just a spokesman. I'm a customer.
Well, I tell you what, they have a wide range of styles. And they emphasize a variety of shoe options available for different activities and preferences. Athletic shoes, casual shoes, work boots, sandals, all designed with unique comfort features in mind. So I'm telling you, this shoe has changed my life, and you can get your G-Defy shoes today. Go to gravitydefier.com. That's gravitydefier.com. You got a 60-day trial guarantee. If you don't like your shoes after 60 days, send them back. But you're not going to be sending them back because they're really, really good.
God, they're just great. I love them. And great support, great comfort.
And 100%, I'm being honest here. It took me a while to adjust because it's a little bit of a different.
Really?
Well,
I had zero.
And I
Day one, I was like, yep, these are it.
I had a little bit of adjustment period, but now I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I want to put my shoes on because I feel better when I'm walking in them. Go to gravitydefier.com, but here's a unique thing for you. If you use the promo code DocTalk30 at checkout, you can save $30 on orders of $150 or more. That's $30 off by using the promo code DocTalk30 at checkout on orders of $150 or more. Focus on your foot health. As you get older, like Dr. Rob and I, we're not going to lie, we're getting up there. You can.
It's for real. It happens.
It happens. Plantar fasciitis, diabetes, arthritis. They make them the ideal shoe.
Tripping and falling in bleachers at wrestling tournaments.
Yes.
You break your ankle. It happens.
I'm not kidding. But they're good-looking shoes, a wide variety of styles. DocTalk30 at checkout. Save $30 on an order of $150 or more. You won't be disappointed. I promise you that. Go to gravitydefier.com. That's gravitydefier.com. If you saw over the weekend, Troy Dannon, new athletic director at Nebraska, talked to he introduced Frank Solich was there over the weekend. The locker room at Nebraska is now the Frank.
This was like two spring games in a row.
Yeah, so the Frank Solich locker room. That's pretty damn cool. That's really cool.
I love Frank. I love what he meant to the program, and I still feel like I'm heartbroken over what happened with him and Steve Peterson.
Because Steve Peterson's a dick.
Yeah, pretty much. And Frank's not.
No.
So the guy deserves his place in that pantheon.
100%.
He really, really does. I love seeing that. I love the fact that he's willing to come back and be a part of the program. I mean, it's a tribute to him basically saying like, yeah, I still...
And he's so humble. Yeah. I watch him. I'm sitting there going, do you think it's all trying to make up for lost time? And I don't care if it is. They're doing it's the right thing. It's the right thing.
Yeah.
Right?
But I mean, it took a while to get the right people in place to recognize
that. And it took the right people to go, you know what, it's right. And give Trev credit here. I mean, I know a lot of people are mad at Trev. Trev started this. Trev got him to come back a year ago. Troy got him to come back again. I think it's just really cool. It's called the Frank Solich locker room. I think it's the right thing. It's like you're like correcting a shift in the universe that was wrong. It is.
I mean, the thing that that I hope people take away from this is when you go back and you look at Nebraska football history. There's two names that 100% always stand out, and it's Bob Devaney and Tom Osborne.
True.
If you go back, you look at the numbers, you look at the on-field success, you look at what he was able to accomplish. In frankly, I didn't mean that was a total play on words I didn't intend right there. If you look at the amount of time that he spent in Lincoln as a head coach, now I know he was there, I mean, his total tenure in Lincoln was quite a while. But, I mean, Devaney was a head coach for like 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, wasn't that long? What as long as people think?
It was like 62 to 72. Osborne was 73 to 90 through 97. Solich was 98 to 03 through 03. That's not a long time.
No.
His numbers are amazing. When you go back and look, you're like, God, we were really that good under Frank. Yeah, we were that good under Frank.
And what people didn't expect, and it happens and it's going to happen to the guy at Alabama, Kalen DeBoer. There's always a transition period between the greatness. You have to give it time to build back up.
Well,
and people were not patient.
And sometimes it does. Sometimes it's not right away. I mean, you look at Ohio State. I mean, they went from Jim Tressel to Urban Meyer to Ryan Day, and it's not like they missed a beat with anyone.
But Ryan Day's he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, you got a guy who's 11-2 and on the hot seat.
On the hot seat because he's got to beat Michigan. He's got to play for national titles. That's the expectation.
And I get it. He's had, 2 or 3 losses in a row to Michigan?
Yeah, 3.
Okay.
3 losses.
Well, guess what? Harburg's gone.
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh.
It doesn't matter.
Jim's gone.
You bring up the National Football League.
So I got Harburg on the brain.
And that's understandable. You bring up Jim Harbaugh, the National Football League. The draft just took place over the weekend. No Huskers taken. Second time in 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a big surprise, though, this year.
I would agree with you.
I mean, if you looked at the lineup of guys, who was there? Like all the guys that I looked at and thought, like, okay, this guy's draftable, were all guys who came back for that 6th year. So I don't want to say zero surprise. It was damn near zero.
But it's disappointing, right? I mean, because you want to be able to hang you want to hang faces and everybody who's drafted.
You just said hang a banner.
You want but that's what they are.
It is. You want stuff that you can hang your hat on and say, hey, here's something to point out about this program that is the strength of the program. We send guys to the NFL. We send guys to the next level. And we had guys sign. I mean, I'm pumped to see what Newelly does. I hope Phelan does great down in New Orleans. I hope these guys hook on and make the teams and play a career out. But yeah, that's disappointing where you're one of these schools that you would average like 4 to 7 draft picks a year. Like now we sit around and go like, hey, is Nebraska going to have anybody drafted? Or you got 1 or 2 drafted, what's going to happen? That's disappointing.
I think it will change, though. It's just a matter of time. Because you look at a guy like Thomas Fidone, and you know that guy's going to get drafted. He's a freaking beast.
And there's guys now in that offensive line that I look at where I think, okay, Corcoran's going to have a chance. Ben Hart's going to have a chance. Ben Scott's going to have a chance. There's guys there now that are going to have those chances. And, I mean, you look on the defensive side, there's a handful of guys on every level of that defense that I look at and go, okay, some of these guys are going to have that chance to get drafted. So I'm optimistic for the future. This year, I don't know. This was not a year where I think anybody was sitting around and going, okay, we got like a Torrey Taylor or a Cooper DeJean or somebody like that who's going to get drafted. I mean, I hate to say it. You look at Iowa, and every year there's 3 to 5 guys that you look at that are probably going to get drafted.
By the way, the Eagles got a great pickup at number 40 for Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, they did.
That dude fell a lot farther than I thought he would, and I think he's a white corner.
Say what you will, so we're seeing this at all levels of football now. So I see it at the high school level. I see it at the college level. I see it at the pro level. So you go back to when I came out of college, man, there was a difference between a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. I was a 4th-round guy. There was a difference between a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick. There was a difference between a 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick.
Were you surprised 6 quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks, though? Jeez. And were you surprised that Penix Jr. went that high?
Quarterbacks are always a commodity.
Not all of them are going to make it, though. You know that.
100%, but if you're in the NFL, I mean, any team always needs another quarterback.
That's fair.
You really do. The thing that I think people got to understand now is that from a talent, ability to make the team standpoint, I mean, overall ability standpoint, the guys who are getting drafted in the 3rd round today in 2024, you go back to when I played in the 1990s, that would have been a late 1st-round pick. Like the talent level now is what a late first rounder would have been 25, 30
Brock
years
Purdy,
ago.
Mr. Irrelevant, is now the top quarterback in the national.
Well, and that was just bad decision making. I mean, you look at North Dakota kid, Trey Lance.
Yeah, Trey Lance.
I mean, he's now bouncing from team to team and probably not going to be in the league that long. And Brock Purdy's fighting for mega contracts. So is what it is. But the talent level has changed and it's blended to the extent that, I mean, that difference from like a high first round to like a late third round,
not much difference.
That gap has closed tremendously over the last 30 years. And so, you're seeing at the high school level, you're seeing at the college level, good D2 guys it's a fine line from being a good D2 guy to being a D1 guy.
Hey, Owen, real quick, can you hand me the 2 bags over here on top of the box? I totally forgot about this. I need to give Rob something. We got bags.
We got bags.
I got to thank our good buddy Chad Carr, who owns Chad Carr Productions. Lagoons used to have Ticket Express. And I want to give these to Rob. Give that one to Rob. But look at this. He gave us some whiskey.
Oh.
Yeah, buddy. Got a little Old Smoky.
What do you got over there, Owen?
What is that? Don't swear. Don't swear? What is that? I think it's like a little game or something like that. I don't know. Let me see real quick.
There's a note inside of the lid.
There is. I'm not going to read this. So what'd you get? You got the mango habanero whiskey. Whoa.
You got the mango habanero too. We got like the total swag pack here.
The total swag pack.
Read the note.
This says don't swear, and it's like a little piggy bank. So should we put this on here that we have
to swear jar?
It's a swear jar.
Nice.
So I'll put. Oh Jesus!
I got a Lagoons post. Dude, he's still doing Lagoons. Check it out. I love it. Did you have Lagoons in high school?
Oh, yeah.
I had Lagoons.
Do you know who the first Lagoons model was?
I don't know, but this dude's good looking.
John Higgins was the first Lagoons
That's
model.
right. We talked about, guess what? Do you know where we talked about that?
On the podcast.
On the podcast.
I would read Chad's note, but I can't read his handwriting.
Do you want me to read it?
Sure. You go ahead and try to read that.
I can do it. I believe in me.
You believe in you? He gave us
to Dr. Rob and Trav. This is the closest thing that I could find to a sorry Dave.
The don't swear jar.
Thanks for being a Ticket Express supporter for so many years. Awesome.
You're cutting shit out there because you can't read it. See?
Well, that's true.
You can't read it. All I know is we got mango habanero whiskey,
hey,
Old Smoky.
By the way, big thanks to Chad.
Yeah.
For Chad Carr Productions, Ticket Express.
Which doesn't exist anymore, but Lagoons.
But Chad Carr Productions.
But Chad Carr Productions does, and so does Lagoons.
Exactly.
So there you go. All right, we do want to thank our sponsors. G-Defy. If you haven't picked up your G-Defy shoes, do so today at GravityDefyer.com.
They're legit. I've been recommending them to people at work. They are amazing.
Totally. If we can get your whole surgery room in G-Defy shoes, that'd be awesome. Use the promo code DocTalk30 at checkout. Save $30 on orders of $150 or more. Husker Hounds, 2 locations in Omaha. And get the all-together gear to support the victims of the tornado. Help out any way you can. All the proceeds go to the Red Cross. Or Law Group. Connor was supposed to be here today. He blew us off. He's got strep throat. He's our resident. Weak, very weak.
A couple of doses of penicillin, you're fine.
Go to orlawgroupgrp.com or contact Connor today at 402-408-6488 or Connor at orlawgrp.com for all your litigation needs. Centris Federal Credit Union, check out the diagnosis. We have a spring game diagnosis, 3 different installments of that. And don't forget their 90th anniversary. July 27th is their Centris Federal Credit Union extravaganza. All-day music at Stinson Park in Exarban. You won't want to miss it. It's free to the public. And Husker Max, our good friends at HuskerMax.com for distributing this podcast, putting it out there for a lot of people to see. We appreciate it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like us and follow us on your podcast provider of choice, and give us a review if you can, and give us a like as you help us grow. For Dr. Rob Zatechka, I'm Travis Justice. We will talk to you next time on the Doc Talk Podcast, presented by nobody, because we're looking for presenting sponsors. So we'll see you next time on the Doc Talk Podcast.